The four accused in a case of gang rape and murder of a vet in Hyderabad who were killed in a police encounter were quote-unquote deliberately fired upon with an intent to cause their death. This according to the report of the three-member inquiry commission appointed by the Supreme Court, now recommending that the 10 police officials be tried for murder of the four accused, which includes 3 minors. The commission pointed out at glaring lapses in the investigation. The committee also said that the police version that accused snatched the pistol and tried to escape seemed unbelievable. It was not backed by evidence. The commission said, and I quote, "In our considered opinion, the accused were deliberately fired upon with an intent to cause their death and with the knowledge that the firing would invariably result in the death of the deceased suspect. We are of the opinion that at the relevant time, the accused named Jolu Shiva, Jolu Naveen and Chintana Kuntavullu were minors." That's the quoting from the report. The report raises several questions about encounters, custodial deaths, instant justice and due procedure. End of the day, what was it? Was it instant justice? Was due procedure followed? And what really next for these policemen? To discuss all of this and the ramifications really of what the panel has said today on other cases, I'd like to welcome Ujjwal Nikam, senior advocate, Ellen Rao, former DCP, special cell also with us, Advocate Rekha Agrawal, senior lawyer, will be joining us very shortly as well. First of all, I'd like to go to the former top cop, Ellen Rao, sir. You're a former DCP yourself, sir. You know, these allegations against policemen, it's quite common. But end of the day, if you look at the observations of the Supreme Court panel, they say that, it was a fake encounter. The police had absolutely no evidence which they could produce. The minors were shot at with the intent to deliberately kill them. How do you react to, what the Supreme Court panel has to say today, considering it's reignited, that debate once again about what's due procedure and what exactly is instant justice?
Look, when there is any such incident is noticed by any authority or the court, they appoint some panelists to conduct inquiry on the spot inquiry and to find out fact-finding reports. They visit the spot and find out what are the evidences are there, what are the version of police, what police says about it, and then what is the supporting evidence of the police version. So all these things are taken into account, and based on that, inquiry panel or inquiry commission submit their report on the basis of what actually they have found on the spot and what actually they have revealed, whether this police story was believable or not believable, or if it was believable, what were the grounds, and if it was not believable, then what are the contradictory version which they collected during that inquiry. That report has been submitted by before the Supreme Court. And I have not seen that report.
So both sides need to be taken into consideration. Taken your point, sir. Let me also go to Ujjwal Nikam, senior advocate, who has joined us now on the live. Thank you for joining us on NewsX, sir. First question: what's your reaction to what the Supreme Court panel had to say today? As I said earlier, it's reignited that debate about due procedure versus trigger-happy cops and instant justice once again.
Frankly speaking, the Supreme Court panel has held that it was a fake encounter. Secondly, they have also recommended that 10 police officers who were involved in that encounter should be prosecuted for culpable homicide, not a murder. Number 2. Number 3 point, most important aspect is that on the basis of the recommendation of the said panel, now the investigating agency will require to hold an inquiry independently. Now the investigating agency will require to collect the material and to find out whether the panel's recommendation fits in the facts of the case. Now my good question is, though the Supreme Court panel has held that it was an extra unconstitutional killings, but investigating agency will require to collect the evidence. Now, whatever the evidence collected by the Hyderabad police, of course, the Supreme Court panel has found out that there are certain lacunas, there are inherent weakness in the said investigation, and on the basis of that investigation paper, the Supreme Court had arrived at a conclusion. Now, let us see how far the matter proceeds, but it is now for the state government of Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh, has to prosecute those 10 police officers for the murder charge and the conspiracy charge.
And does it look likely that the state government is going to act on it at all, considering that it was KCR himself who had hailed the cops after the encounter had taken place? In fact, if you remember the public scenes, people were showering petals on these cops. Women were tying them rakhi. So it clearly shows where the public sentiment lies.
But this happens everywhere.
Yeah.
When police kills any criminal, the common man becomes happy. The question is that whether such killing is permissible according to the rule of law or not. See, I won't say that the 4 persons who were, they were encountered were very clean as they, but the manner in which the police have acted is certainly not been appreciated by the law. And therefore, the Supreme Court panel has recommended they should be prosecuted.
Right, but sir, when we speak of prosecution of these cops, do you not think that it could act as a deterrent for policemen to do their duty throughout the country? End of the day, there is another side of the argument, because we've been talking to policemen, top cops through the day on this big story, and the other side of the argument is that next time any policeman has to shoot at a criminal, they're going to think twice that we could be booked in a case of encounter. What would be your answer to that argument, sir?
In fact, the Supreme Court in earlier judgment has also laid down certain guidelines. What precautions are required to be followed while encounter criminal? What measures to be adopted after the encounter? How the matter is to be reported? Now, the Supreme Court has created a big doubt the manner in which the Hyderabad police had acted. Because according to the Hyderabad police, these 4 criminals were taken out, and when they were trying to snatch the firearms of the police officer, there was an encounter. Now, this story, the Supreme Court panel said it is palpably false. Because those 4 criminals were handcuffed, how they could run away? This is number one.
Yeah, so all the points you're raising, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. Yes, you're right that there were a lot of red flags which had been raised right after the encounter in 2019. In fact, we at NewsX, and I'm sure every other channel must have done a debate on the same. But end of the day, so how do you prove this eventually in a court of law? Because all the evidence will be circumstantial. End of the day, who was present? The ones who are deceased and the police personnel who conducted the encounter.
You are perfectly right. The whole case rests on the circumstantial evidence. There was no eyewitness account. So forensic expert evidence, you see, I don't know exactly, I have not read the entire recommendation of the Supreme Court panel. Okay. But the judge who was heading the panel was a retired Supreme Court judge. He was assisted by the retired High Court judges. And I think there will be some basis for prosecuting these officers. Exactly, one will require to study the exact order.
All right. Of course, we have excerpts from the order also, which we are flashing on our screen also, and we have been reading them out through the day, sir. But I take your point, and I'll take it forward to Ellen Rao, former DCP Special Cell. He's also live with us. Ellen Rao, as I was asking you earlier, the other side of the argument, many top cops now saying that they will think twice before performing their duty. It's going to act as a big deterrence and hindrance, as far as policing in the country is concerned. End of the day, if there is a policeman who has to conduct an encounter, he or she may deter from doing so, considering, there is a fear of litigation and possibility of charges like culpable homicide being raised against them.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I want to convey that the encounters are never made. These are not stage mannered, as so many people think that the encounter has been done by the police. No. Encounters are never been stage managed, because encounter is that when the culprit attacks on the police party, and the police party in their defense retaliate, and then they, in their self-defense, if they fire at them, then if the people are killed in that process, that is called encounter. So here there is no need of afraid of these police officers who are saying that we are being deterrent. No, nobody is deterrent. Any person who is facing such type of criminal proceedings, that only he is that he has done some mistake, that he is not obeying the rules of law, and he is not adhering to the NHRC rules and guidelines. So the person who is doing these yeah, there is some echo in that voice.
Yes,
but the officers who are doing their duty with their utmost sincerity or honesty, and in that process, if some criminal attack to them, and then they
no,
react.
sir, but I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
No
You say that cops will never conduct a fake encounter, but you found nothing suspicious in this encounter. I'm not asking you to jump the gun and reach a conclusion, but does it sound plausible, the story which the Hyderabad police had given to the media, that a bunch of criminals, minors, overpowered them, snatched their weapons, tried to run away when the scene was being recreated? That story does sound a little suspicious. End of the day, there's no doubt about that.
That depends upon the facts and circumstances of this case. What were the circumstances under which those minors could possibly, but apparently it doesn't seem to be the correct that minor will snatch the weapon of a trained police officer. That is also does not seem to be much plausible. So we have to see what are the facts and circumstances of each case, and particularly in this case, what happened at this court.
Mr. Rao, I think by mistake you have either switched off your video or we're having a trouble there. Let's fix that and I'll come back to you. But I take your point. Yes, the encounter you say was suspicious, but end of the day you feel cops will do no wrong. But Advocate Rekha Agrawal is a senior lawyer, ma'am, to come in here. End of the day, you know, since I was describing the scenes which had emanated right after that encounter had taken place, rose petals being showered on these policemen, women and men distributing sweets on the streets, hundreds of people literally celebrating what had happened. Politicians, top politicians of our country, backing the police action, saying that even if the encounter is fake, it's okay, it's justified. End of the day, it does show some lacuna in a legal system also. It does show how, you know, the common man doesn't really trust the way our legal system works. End of the day, that is one of the reasons why even if the encounter is fake, the public opinion will always be sympathetic towards these cops.
Yeah, I fully agree with you that, you know, in fact, as being a part of the judicial system, in my 35 years of experience, what I have noticed is that people at large are generally very unhappy with the way our criminal trials are conducted, because they're very long and arduous. Probably the principle in a constitution being that, you know, you're innocent until proved guilty, and the old maxim that let 99 guilty people go scot-free, but one innocent person should not be, you know, punished. With that, you know, being the foundation of criminal jurisprudence, criminal trials take a very, very long time. And by that time, the common man who really doesn't understand what the legal process is, or what the criminal procedure code is, what the Indian Penal Code is, what the Indian Evidence Act is, so he or she takes a very, very narrow, specious view of the whole problem. They want result. The public wants result. And they just, as they say, the ends justify the means. They couldn't care less. Now, at that time, people were showering rose petals on these police people. But now these same people, the same cops, are going to be facing the trial for murder. Now, is the public going to come and help them at that time? So let us not get swayed by the public. Even in 2019, when this has happened, I remember very clearly that on one of your channels, and I had highly condemned this. You know, much as the victim, the victim who suffered the agony of the criminal offense which had taken place against her, that was of course a very ghastly thing that was done against the doctor. But at the same time,
but you cannot have trigger-happy men in khaki. I take your point, and that's a fair point you raise. Ved Bhushan, what next for these policemen? End of the day, you know, when we speak of the encounter, again, you know, nobody wants to jump the gun, but the circumstances, the story of the police to begin with from day one sounded extremely suspicious. Do you think, or would you say, even though you're a former ACP yourself, if this encounter is fake, should strictest action not being taken against these cops, considering end of the day, even if they kill people who are accused in a gang rape, who conducted the most heinous act one can imagine, but still there is a law and order system in place. If they have conducted a gang rape, murder, they've smothered and even raped and burnt a girl, the police can take them to the courts, fight for the stricter charges to be implemented against them, try to get them hanged, but to kill them, that is not justified. Would you say today, if the encounter is fake, as the SC panel says, would you not say the strictest action should be taken against them, considering that you're a former policeman yourself, sir?
जब से हिंदुस्तान आजाद हुआ है तमाम जो एनकाउंटर्स हैं वो उनके ऊपर हमेशा सवालिया निशान रहे, वेदर इसे सीपी एनकाउंटर, वेदर इसे विकास दुबे, उत्तराखंड एनकाउंटर, अभी आपने दिल्ली में बॉम्बे में देखा प्रदीप शर्मा जो एनकाउंटर स्पेशलिस्ट थे, किस तरह से उनका एंटालिया केस में नाम आया। दया नायक जो 56 पिक्चर उनके ऊपर बनी थी जो हीरो बने हुए साबित हुए थे। इसी तरह दिल्ली के अंदर राजवीर यादव थे जो खुद गोली का शिकार हुए। तो तमाम एनकाउंटर स्पेशलिस्ट और जो एनकाउंटर्स हैं वो हमेशा शेडो में रहे, अंडर इन्वेस्टिगेशन रहे, स्कैनर रहे। इसीलिए नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन ने कुछ गाइडलाइंस जारी किए हैं कि हाउ इन्वेस्टिगेशन विल कैरीड इन सच एनकाउंटर्स विच इज लाइकली टू बी कॉल्ड फेक एनकाउंटर। अभी आप इस तमाम जो चीजें हैं अभी रेखा मैम क्लियर कर रही थी, लॉ पॉइंट पर बता रही थी किस तरह से इन्वेस्टिगेशन की जाती है। तमाम एक प्रक्रिया है, एक प्रोसीजर है कि तमाम जो फेक एनकाउंटर्स या जहां पर पुलिस की गोली से लोग मारे जाते हैं उनका किस तरह से मेडिकल एग्जामिनेशन होता है, किस तरह से उसकी वीडियोग्राफी होती है। इन द प्रेजेंट केस दिशा केस वहां पर भी कुछ मेडिकल जो उनका एग्जामिनेशन हुआ है उसको लेकर भी कुछ क्वेश्चंस पैदा हो रहे हैं, कुछ डाउट्स क्रिएट हो रहे हैं। इन तमाम चीजों के जो डाउट्स हैं, जो इरेगुलरिटी जो मेडिकल एग्जामिनेशन में है या जो स्टैट्यूटरी प्रोविजंस है, जो उनका वायलेशंस ड्यूरिंग इन्वेस्टिगेशन में, वो तमाम स्कैनर में है। इसलिए दैट्स व्हाई ये केस अंडर सेक्शन 302 मर्डर का केस उनके खिलाफ इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए रजिस्टर किया जा रहा है। उसमें तमाम चीज क्लियर हो जाएंगी। और अभी आप पब्लिक आउटक्राई का बता रहे थे किस तरह से पैटर्न्स करा गया, ये क्योंकि इंस्टेंट एक जरूरत होती है कि किस तरह से, और पुलिस ऑफिसर कुछ ज्यादा ओवर एक्सीड कर जाते हैं अपनी पावर को, इसी का ये रिजल्ट है।
अगर सर ओवर एक्सीड करी अपनी पावर, अगर ये सच में ऐसा था तो आप क्या कहेंगे? क्या इनके अगेंस्ट 302 की धारा जो ये पैनल अब चाहता है वो लगाना ठीक है? आप चाहते हैं उनके अगेंस्ट स्ट्रिक्ट एक्शन हो, या आपको लगता है कि आगे भी पुलिस अपना काम करने से डर जाएगी अगर 302 लगते रहे एनकाउंटर्स पे? तो
नहीं, डरने की जरूरत नहीं है, केवल फेक करने की जरूरत नहीं है। हमें पुलिस ऑफिसर्स को कोई राइट नहीं है अपनी पावर को एक्सीड करना, किसी की लाइफ को लेना। उसके लिए तमाम प्रोसीजर हैं, कोर्ट्स हैं, हमें अपने सिस्टम पर यकीन रखना चाहिए। निर्भया के दोषियों को भी अल्टीमेटली फांसी मिली, ठीक है, 14 इयर्स लग गए, तमाम चीजें उसके अंदर आई, यूएन क्राई हुआ, किस तरह का डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन अक्रॉस इंडिया हुआ। और दिशा केस के अंदर भी बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी आई जो तमाम चीजें पुलिस के ऊपर एक डाउट क्रिएट कर सकती थी। क्योंकि
I take your point, sir. I take your point. I take your point.
Minors in this case.
And I think,
three minors in this case.
Gee, exactly, and that was going to be my next point. I take your point, and I think it's we appreciate that even as a top cop, you say if the encounter is fake, then the strictest punishment should be meted out to these policemen if they were the perpetrators of this crime. Ujjwal Nikam, you know, sir. So there are 2 points which are coming in. That Nirbhaya case, it took so many years altogether. End of the day, nothing really happens if the accused is a minor. Would you say that's one of the reasons why the people were so happy? Even though all of us, just about every single person could sense that the encounter did not sound right, the story, all the evidence, etc., which the police was saying, you know, it wasn't really corroborating to the narrative which the police was trying to give out. Would you say that it's end of the day a legal system as well which needs to reform? Perhaps that's when these encounters will stop, and that's when the appreciation for this instant type of justice will also end. Ujjwal Nikam, sir, could you hear us? Okay, I'm not too sure if Ujjwal Nikam's still with us, but Advocate Rekha Agrawal, would you like to take that question, ma'am?
Yes, definitely. I would certainly say that, you know, I'm not at all encouraging, you know, that, you know, the legal system should be compromised or the trial should be compromised in any manner. But certainly we do need to, you know, the Criminal Procedure Code is of 1973. You know, so the trial, the procedure with which our trials are conducted, those certainly need to be revamped, but not at the cost of anybody, neither at the cost of the accused nor at the cost of the prosecutor. Because not only do we have to protect the accused from being punished if he is innocent, but what of the rights of the complainant, of the prosecutrix in this case? For example, in the Disha case, as Ved Bhushan rightly said, it took 14 years. So people are losing faith in the system. We don't want that to happen. We don't want anarchy on the roads. Yeah. You know, today the cops have taken, you know, I mean, this was a case, the Disha case, in which the cops have staged an encounter. Tomorrow there'll be a case when the public is going to lynch somebody. You know, every day in Uttar Pradesh we have these cow lynching cases that are happening in UP. You know, that you find somebody allegedly, you know, killing a cow when the mob goes and lynches that person to death. So we don't want anybody to take law in his own hands, whether it is the public or whether it is the cops. Therefore, I wish that there could be more fast-track courts, and the procedural aspect of our trials should be expedited.
Yes,
From
so we need to look at legal and judicious reforms. If you look at this entire case, holistically, that's a fair point, ma'am. Ellen Rao, sir, do you not think that this time, if strict action is not taken against these so-called trigger-happy men in khaki, it could set the wrong precedent? As the advocate also says that today, yes, the cops have killed who the public considers a villain. Tomorrow, someone may take out personal vendetta. This sort of anarchy cannot be allowed.
Yes, Meenakshi, in so many cases in the past also, strict action has been taken against these trigger-happy cops who has done this type of exceeding their powers as per rule. At the same time, we the police officials have to go by the rules of law of our land, and we have to obey whatever the guidelines have been given by the Supreme Court of India and as well as the Human Rights Commission. In such type of cases, there are certain guidelines by NHRC that these, when such type of incident is taken place, then the videography is also required to be done, and that videography of the postmortem of the victims who have been killed in that encounter, that is to be done, and other things also are to be taken care of. Even when there is an encounter, that agency cannot investigate that case. That case should be investigated by some other agency other than the district one, and that compulsorily and magisterial inquiry should be conducted in all type of, because there are Supreme Court guidelines that magisterial
right,
inquiry.
Sir, I've taken your point. I've taken your point. We can get your audio, but not your video. But yes, that's a fair point which you raised, that the police also needs to follow the SC guidelines and the NHRC guidelines. Ved Bhushan also with us. Ved Bhushan, sir, since you were speaking about Vikas Dubey encounter and many other encounters over which question marks have been raised, do you think that this panel verdict is going to have wider ramification and it could have a spillover effect on the other so-called fake encounter cases as well?
मीनाक्षी, देखिए, इसमें कंपल्शंस बहुत तरह के होते हैं पुलिस के ऊपर, ये पर्दे के पीछे की चीज है। आप देखें, अभी आपने विकास दुबे का नाम लिया क्योंकि देयर वाज सम पॉलिटिकल कंपल्शंस, उसको किस तरह से एलिमिनेट करना था, सही था गलत था, इट्स अ डिफरेंट थिंग। इसी तरह से बहुत ये कनॉट पे शूट आउट हुआ, इट वाज ए मिस्टेकन आइडेंटिटी। बहुत सारे कंपल्शंस ऐसे होते हैं, उन कंपल्शन से पुलिस को दूर करने के लिए तमाम तरह के लॉज हैं, गाइडलाइंस हैं, नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन है, और बहुत सारी सोशल मीडिया के ऊपर इतने तरह के प्रेशर हैं। तो इन जो कंपल्शन से जो पुलिस को, जो ऑफिसर्स के ऊपर जो कंपल्शन है, वो जब तक रिमूव नहीं होंगे, इस तरह की चीजें फ्यूचर में भी रिपीट हो सकती हैं। इसकी पॉसिबिलिटी कैन नॉट बी रूल्ड आउट। इसलिए जरूरत है ऐसी तमाम चीजों को इस इन्वेस्टिगेशन के द्वारा ये प्रूव किए जाने की, यदि उनकी गलती है, कोई मेजर लैप्स है, तो डेफिनेटली उनको पनिश करना चाहिए। यदि बोनाफाइड मिस्टेक है, मेरा ये भी कहना है कि उनको जबरदस्ती टांगा ना जाए। जहां बोनाफाइड है, यदि कोई ऐसी चीज है, कोई माइनर ऐसी कोई गलती हो गई, तो उसके लिए उनको हैंग ना किया जाए, बिकॉज दे आर पुलिस ऑफिसर। पर्सनल कोई उनका एजेंडा नहीं था, क्योंकि ह्यू एंड क्राई था। जो आपने देखा किस तरह से हैदराबाद के अंदर पब्लिक ने कंधे पर बैठा के रखा, पुलिस को आंखों में बैठाया। तो ये तमाम चीजें हैं, सोसाइटी के अंदर बहुत अप्स एंड डाउन होते हैं। अभी रेखा मैम भी कह रही थी, राव साहब भी बोल रहे थे, पुलिस के लिए बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें, प्रेशर्स होते हैं, वेदर इट्स पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर, कोई सोशल चीजें होती है, समाज में रहते हैं। उन्नाव, यस एग्जैक्टली, उन्नाव, या
जी, आपने एक बहुत पर्टिनेंट पॉइंट रेज किया ऑफ पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर। एडवोकेट रेखा अग्रवाल, I don't think legally really one can book the politicians as well, but all of us sort of know the political pressure which remains on these top policemen. We do know very, very openly which politician, which political party was backing the Hyderabad cops. It was a very clear-cut story that if it was a fake encounter, these cops also went trigger-happy under the guidance of their political masters. End of the day, no action being taken against the netas and politicians who push these, cops and policemen to conduct fake encounters.
Absolutely right, and that is in fact, the biggest tragedy, I would say, that all the cops. Let's be very, candid about it. How, with utmost respect to Ved Bhushan sir and to Rao sir, the cops in our country are really do not enjoy a very good reputation. I would be very honest in saying so. And they are supposed to be succumbing to all sorts of temptations and pressures. Now, we know very clearly that in the case of the Disha encounter, they were enjoying political patronage. Unke sir pe haath rakha hua tha. The police knew that, we have got the shelter of this certain party. I will not like to take names. So it is because of that, but it is unfortunate now who is going to face the trial. Now, it is these cops are going to face the trial. Neither the public is going to face the trial, nor the politicians are going to face trial, because there will be nothing, no evidence to connect anybody, any third person with the with the charge sheet that has been filed. So I think that it is high time that the police certain acting independently, which they are supposed to act, but unfortunately they are not able to act. That is a reality. That they are not able to act in the fair manner, that they all have to save their jobs at the end of the day. Ultimately it's all a question of your own bread and butter. So if you do not...
There needs to be a systemic reform. It's a very pertinent point, of course. We can only reflect on it. Not much can be done about it. What about the political masters who provided patronage and encouraged these policemen to conduct this encounter? We all remember what the State Chief Minister also had to say post the encounter. There is really no doubt that the political party back then in part, still in part actually, had backed the encounter. But Ellen Rao, sir, as we open the discussion, do you think if these cops are booked for fake encounter, if this encounter was actually fake, and they are actually booked for such a stringent act like culpable homicide not amounting to murder, or even 302 murder, because that's really two recommendations from the panel which has come, do you think it could deter cops from conducting their jobs, or do you think it is going to act as a disciplinary measure? Where do you stand on this debate?
First of all, I think that the investigation will decide when the order has been done that the murder case is to be registered, and after investigation, when the charge is filed, then the trial will be faced by all these, as Mrs. Agrawal said, that the...
No, sir, but that is a recommendation of the panel. If that happens, if they're actually booked for 302, what about the cops and their psychology and effect on it?
Because the panel recommendations cannot be thrown out of the thrown under the carpet. Definitely that case has to be registered. Definitely, but it all depends upon the investigation also. During investigation, if there is something coming against them, against the cops, only then they will be charge sheeted. Otherwise, no.
Okay, sir, I've taken your point. I can't give you enough time because we're having video issues with you, but your audio, of course, crystal clear and point taken. Ved Bhushan, would you like to take this forward? What Ellen Rao was saying, far as, of course, policemen are concerned, the other side of the argument is that if such a stringent act is raised against these policemen, if they're booked under 302, whether it happens or not, we'll have to wait and watch. But if that happens, it could act as a deterrence and it could have a negative impact on the psychology of other policemen. Where do you stand on this argument, sir?
एग्जैक्टली मीनाक्षी, राव साहब का बड़ा वैलिड पॉइंट है। इन्वेस्टिगेशन के बाद ही तमाम जो फैक्ट्स हैं, वो एविडेंसेस हैं, तमाम नरेट होंगी और कोर्ट में ट्रायल के दौरान वो स्टडी की जाएंगी, पढ़ी जाएंगी। पर जो पुलिस ऑफिसर्स की जो एगोनी है, जो 10 पुलिस ऑफिसर्स जो बुक हो रहे हैं, मैं आपको याद दिलाना चाहता हूं, सीपी एनकाउंटर जो मिस्टेक इन आइडेंटिटी के लिए तमाम पुलिस के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा सेट एग्जाम्पल है। पुलिस कॉलेजेस के अंदर, पुलिस ट्रेनिंग्स के अंदर पढ़ाया जाता है। उसके जो पुलिस ऑफिसर से अभी पीछे कुछ दिन पहले 23 साल की जेल से बाहर आए हैं, 23 ईयर। तो पुलिस ऑफिसर्स के लिए, सोसाइटी के लिए, पॉलिटिशियंस के लिए, जो पॉलिटिशियंस पीछे से बैकग्राउंड से पुशअप करते हैं, उन सब के लिए एक मैसेज है कि यदि इस तरह की चीजें से डेटर नहीं होंगे तो जो एगोनी पुलिस ऑफिसर्स को और सोसाइटी को फेस करनी पड़ती है। मैं ये नहीं कहता कि जो 4 जो एक्यूज थे जिनका एनकाउंटर किया गया, वेदर इज अ फेक एनकाउंटर और क्या उसकी जेन्युइनिटी थी, क्या सोसाइटी के लिए एक अच्छा मैसेज गया, नहीं गया, परंतु इससे यह जरूर एस्टेब्लिश होता है कि पुलिस ऑफिसर और जो लॉ अबाइडिंग एजेंसीज हैं, उनको अपनी लिमिट में, जो उनको कोर्ट ने और देश ने, जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने, जो लॉज ने प्रोवाइड किए हैं, उन्हीं के अंडर रहते हुए जो रिसोर्सेज हैं उसमें काम करना चाहिए। इट्स ए क्लियर मैसेज टू सच पुलिस ऑफिसर हु गो बियॉन्ड देयर पावर, दो दे गिवन बियॉन्ड देयर एक्सीड देयर पावर्स, उनके लिए बिल्कुल एक ओपन मैसेज है। तो इसलिए ये तमाम सोसाइटी के अंदर जाने के लिए ये एक बहुत अच्छा एक केस स्टडी के लिए बढ़िया केस होगा कि किस तरह से एनकाउंटर हुआ और आज 2019 के बाद 22 में वो FIR रजिस्टर हो रही है और अभी इसका ट्रायल इन्वेस्टिगेशन, ये इतना टाइम और लेंथी चीजें हैं कि वो तमाम चीजें पुलिस के लिए और तमाम सोसाइटी के लिए एक मैसेज होगा, एक लेसन होगा। रेखा मैम कुछ कहना चाह रही हैं?
Well, absolutely. Yes, Rekha ma'am, quickly please make your point. You're running out of time completely. About 30 seconds for you.
I would just like to add over here that, films like Singham and, all these kind of films, they give a very wrong message to the public. Singham looks good on the big screen, but not in real life. Where the cops decide themselves that they have to become the judge. So whether the accused in the case of Disha were actually guilty or not, who are the cops to decide it? Nobody is there to decide it. So unfortunately, the common man who sees such kind of films, where the cop is like a hero, and without the matter going to court, he
Well, absolutely,
gives
and those are films, ma'am. I'm completely running out of time, but I think it's a pertinent point you raise, and of course, it's great to hear all the constructive, suggestions which are coming our way. Clearly, films may eulogize trigger-happy men in khaki, but in reality, it doesn't work like that. Anarchy cannot be accepted, and if at all it was a fake encounter, as the SC panel says, it looks like that strict action could be taken against these cops. In fact, very, very interesting that former top cops themselves seem to be backing stringent action against cop if at all the encounter was fake. What really, is right in this grey zone, we leave it really for the audience to decide.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.